A high-value woman doesn't just speak, she communicates with purpose, confidence, and grace. Her words hold weight, her presence commands respect, and the way she engages with men is a reflection of her self-worth. She doesn't chase, she attracts. She doesn't demand, she inspires. She doesn't lower herself to be understood. She rises and lets those worthy meet her at her level. When a high-value woman speaks, confidence isn't just in her words, it's in her tone, her posture, the way she holds herself in any conversation. She doesn't shrink herself to make others feel comfortable, nor does she speak just to fill the silence. She knows who she is, and that knowledge shapes how she communicates. She doesn't stutter over her worth or second-guess her boundaries. When she expresses her thoughts, she does so with a steady voice, not one that wavers in uncertainty. She doesn't downplay her achievements, nor does she shy away from stating what she truly wants. She understands that confidence is magnetic, and people, especially men, are naturally drawn to those who carry themselves with certainty. Her clarity isn't just about what she says, but how she says it. She doesn't dance around her points or leave room for unnecessary confusion. If she's interested, she communicates that with warmth but without desperation. If she isn't, she lets it be known without cruelty, but also without fear of disappointing anyone. She knows that saying what she means is a form of self-respect, and she refuses to diminish herself just to make someone else comfortable. She does not rush to fill silences with nervous chatter. Instead, she allows pauses in conversation, understanding that true confidence isn't in an overflow of words, but in the comfort of knowing that what she says carries weight. She doesn't feel the need to prove herself in every interaction because she is already secure in her value. Whether she's speaking to a man she admires or one she has no interest in, her energy remains the same, grounded, steady, and poised. She doesn't seek validation through excessive talking or over-explaining herself. If she says something, she trusts that it's enough. If a man doesn't understand her perspective, she doesn't twist herself into knots trying to convince him. She knows that clarity doesn't mean over-explaining, it means expressing herself fully and then allowing others to meet her where she stands. A high-value woman doesn't engage in manipulation or mind games because she has no need for them. She operates from a place of authenticity, knowing that real connections are built on honesty, not deception. She doesn't resort to passive-aggressive remarks, cryptic messages, or calculated silence to test a man's interest. Instead, she values straightforwardness, expressing herself in a way that leaves no room for unnecessary confusion. She understands that playing games may create temporary excitement, but it doesn't foster genuine respect. She doesn't dangle her attention like a prize to be won, nor does she use emotional withdrawal as a weapon. If she likes someone, she shows it in a way that is both graceful and self-respecting. If she needs something, she communicates it without manipulation, trusting that the right man will appreciate her honesty rather than be intimidated by it. She refuses to engage in the exhausting cycle of making a man guess where he stands. She doesn't send mixed signals, act hot and cold, or pretend to be indifferent when she isn't. She knows that playing hard to get isn't the same as having standards. Instead of pretending she doesn't care, she sets clear expectations and allows the right person to step up and meet them. If he doesn't, she doesn't resort to tactics to force his attention, she simply moves on. Her honesty is both a filter and a magnet. It filters out those who thrive on drama, those who expect women to beg for their time, and those who mistake emotional manipulation for love. But it also draws in the kind of men who appreciate a woman who stands firmly in her truth. She doesn't need to exaggerate her emotions to get a reaction, nor does she twist reality to fit her narrative. She says what she means and means what she says, knowing that integrity is far more powerful than any trick or tactic. She doesn't overanalyze every text message or overthink every response because she trusts in the power of genuine connection. If a man is interested, he will make it clear. If he isn't, she won't waste time strategizing ways to change his mind. She doesn't believe in controlling or forcing an outcome. Instead, she embraces the flow of honest communication, letting things unfold as they should. A high-value woman understands that respect is not something to be demanded or begged for. It is something that is naturally given when she carries herself with self-respect first. She treats men with kindness, but she never lowers herself to be more likable. She knows that true respect is built on mutual understanding, not fear or control. She doesn't see men as adversaries or superior figures. She sees them as equals, and she expects to be treated the same in return. She does not belittle a man to elevate herself, nor does she allow herself to be diminished to protect his ego. She speaks to men in a way that acknowledges their strengths while standing firm in her own. If she admires a man, she tells him without making it seem like she is offering her worth in exchange for his validation. She compliments without overdoing it, praises without idolizing, and supports without losing herself in the process. She does not tolerate disrespect, no matter how subtle it may be. If a man speaks to her in a condescending tone, she corrects it immediately, not with anger, but with unwavering certainty. She makes it clear that she will not engage with anyone who does not see her as an equal. If someone crosses a line, she does not stay silent or excuse the behavior. She addresses it directly, and if respect is not given, she gracefully removes herself from the situation. She also understands that respect is not just about words, it's about energy. She carries herself with dignity in the way she walks, the way she looks people in the eye, and the way she handles herself in both lighthearted and serious conversations. A high-value woman does not laugh at jokes that are meant to degrade her, nor does she entertain men who try to test her boundaries under the guise of just joking. She knows that allowing small moments of disrespect will only open the door for bigger ones. At the same time, she doesn't go out of her way to prove her strength. She doesn't feel the need to constantly remind men that she is independent, capable, or worthy. Her actions already make that clear. She allows her presence, her self-respect, and her natural confidence to set the tone for how she expects to be treated. And because she gives respect where it is deserved, the right men are drawn to her not out of obligation, but because they recognize the rare and undeniable presence of a woman who truly values herself. A high-value woman understands that boundaries are not walls meant to push people away. They are a form of self-respect, a way to define what she will and will not tolerate. She knows that without clear boundaries, she leaves room for others to take advantage of her kindness, her time, and her energy. That's why she sets them unapologetically and enforces them without guilt. She does not waver when someone tests them, nor does she explain herself repeatedly to those who refuse to listen. When she says no, she means it. She doesn't feel the need to cushion her refusal with excessive apologies or justifications. If she is uncomfortable with something, she makes it known with firmness and grace. She does not allow guilt to creep in when she prioritizes her own well-being. She understands that those who truly value and respect her will honor her boundaries, while those who try to push past them are revealing exactly why they don't belong in her life. She also knows that setting boundaries is not just about saying no. It's about recognizing her own worth and ensuring that her relationships reflect that. She doesn't engage with men who play games, disappear, and return when it's convenient, or fail to show up consistently. If a man is unclear about his intentions, she doesn't chase him down for answers or make excuses for his inconsistency. She simply removes herself from the situation, knowing that someone who truly values her will not leave her questioning where she stands. She does not tolerate disrespect disguised as just how men are. She doesn't laugh off comments that make her uncomfortable, and she doesn't allow others to guilt trip her into situations she isn't okay with. If a man crosses a line, she addresses it with directness, not aggression. She does not raise her voice or let her emotions get the best of her. She speaks with authority, making it clear that she will not entertain anyone who cannot respect the standards she has set for herself. A high-value woman understands that boundaries are not just about protecting herself from others. They are about protecting the relationship she has with herself. She knows that every time she compromises her own needs for the sake of pleasing someone else, she is sending a message to herself that her feelings are not as important as theirs, and that is something she simply will not allow. A high-value woman understands the power of meaningful conversation. She is not interested in shallow, small talk that leads nowhere, or in conversations that lack depth and sincerity. She knows that words are a reflection of the mind and that the way she communicates shapes the kind of connections she builds. She doesn't speak just to be heard. She speaks to connect, to understand, and to inspire. She values quality over quantity in communication. She doesn't feel the need to dominate every conversation or constantly be the one talking. Instead, she chooses her words carefully, ensuring that when she speaks, people listen. She asks thoughtful questions, engages in discussions that matter, and isn't afraid to explore topics that go beyond the surface. Whether she's discussing personal ambitions, life philosophies, or emotions, she does so with honesty and presence. She also recognizes the importance of emotional intelligence in communication. She doesn't just say whatever comes to mind without considering how it may affect others. She understands the balance between being direct and being considerate. She knows how to articulate her feelings in a way that is both firm and respectful, making sure that her message is clear but never hurtful. She is not afraid of silence, nor does she force conversation just to fill an empty space. She understands that connection is not built on constant chatter, but on moments of genuine engagement. She doesn't rely on gossip, complaints, or negativity to keep a conversation going. Instead, she focuses on discussions that uplift, challenge, and bring value to both her and the person she is speaking to. A high-value woman also pays attention to the way a man communicates. If he only engages in surface-level talk or avoids deeper discussions, she takes note. She doesn't waste time trying to pull words out of someone who is emotionally unavailable or unwilling to engage in meaningful dialogue. She knows that a strong connection requires both parties to be open, honest, and willing to express themselves. She isn't afraid to talk about what she wants, what she expects, and what she values in life. She doesn't tiptoe around important topics out of fear of being judged or misunderstood. She knows that the right person will appreciate her depth, her curiosity, and her ability to have conversations that leave an impact. A high-value woman knows that listening is just as powerful as speaking. She doesn't just wait for her turn to talk. She listens with presence, with intention, and with a genuine desire to understand. She makes the person she is speaking to feel heard, valued, and respected because she knows that true connection is built in the space between words. When a man speaks to her, she doesn't interrupt or rush to respond. She absorbs what is being said, paying attention not just to the words, but to the emotions behind them. She watches body language, notices shifts in tone, and listens beyond surface-level responses. She knows that real listening isn't about waiting to reply. It's about seeking to understand. When she does respond, she does so with clarity and thoughtfulness, making it clear that she values the conversation. But listening doesn't mean she silences herself. A high-value woman knows that her voice is just as important as the one she is listening to. She doesn't shrink to make room for others, nor does she allow herself to be spoken over. If she has something to say, she says it with confidence, knowing that her words deserve space in the conversation. She does not let a man dominate the dialogue, nor does she feel the need to fill every silence with words. She understands that true communication is a balance of speaking and listening. She listens to understand, not to manipulate or control. She doesn't pretend to care just to win favor, nor does she use listening as a way to gather information for later leverage. Her interest is sincere, and that sincerity is what sets her apart. A man can feel when a woman is truly paying attention, and it creates a sense of comfort and trust that is rare and valuable. However, she is also aware of when her voice is not being valued. If she notices that a man dismisses her words, interrupts her, or disregards her perspective, she does not tolerate it. She will not force someone to listen, nor will she fight to be heard by someone who does not appreciate her presence. She understands that a conversation should be an exchange, not a one-sided performance. If a man cannot meet her with the same level of attentiveness and respect, she knows that he is not the right person for her energy. A high-value woman also listens to herself. She pays attention to her own feelings, instincts, and inner voice. She doesn't ignore red flags or dismiss her gut feelings just to keep a conversation going. If something feels off, she acknowledges it. If a man's words do not align with his actions, she recognizes the disconnect and does not make excuses for it. Her ability to listen extends beyond others. It is rooted in her deep awareness of herself. A high-value woman does not beg for attention, nor does she feel the need to prove her worth to anyone. She understands that presence is more powerful than pursuit, and she carries herself in a way that naturally draws people in. She does not chase, she attracts. She does not demand, she inspires. Her confidence and self-assurance make her someone people want to be around, not because she seeks validation, but because she radiates an undeniable energy of self-respect and worth. She knows that desperation repels, but self-possession captivates. She doesn't anxiously wait for a text. She doesn't overanalyze a man's words, and she certainly doesn't change herself to fit someone else's expectations. Instead, she stays true to who she is, allowing her authenticity to be the reason people take notice. When she enters a room, she does so with grace and certainty, knowing that her presence alone is enough to make an impact. She doesn't engage in attention-seeking behavior because she has no need for it. She doesn't flood a man with messages, try to force interactions, or play games to keep his interest. If she is interested in someone, she expresses it in a way that is confident yet subtle. She lets her actions, her demeanor, and her energy speak for her. If a man is equally interested, he will make an effort. If he isn't, she does not lower herself to convince him otherwise. She understands that her time and energy are too valuable to be spent on anyone who does not see her worth from the start. She also understands that commanding attention is not about being the loudest person in the room or always being the center of conversation. It is about the way she carries herself, the way she makes eye contact, the way she speaks with intention rather than trying to fill the silence with meaningless words. She is secure enough to allow space in a conversation, knowing that her presence alone is enough to make people want to engage with her. She does not compete for a man's interest. She knows that if she has to fight for a place in someone's life, that place was never truly hers to begin with. She lets things unfold naturally, allowing the right people to gravitate toward her without force. She is selective with her energy, ensuring that she only gives it to those who genuinely value and appreciate it. Her ability to command attention comes from an unshakable sense of self. She knows that true confidence isn't about demanding to be seen. It's about being so secure in who she is that people can't help but take notice. She doesn't chase the spotlight, but it always seems to find her because she embodies a level of self-respect and self-worth that is impossible to ignore. A high-value woman understands that the most powerful thing she can do in any interaction is to remain true to herself. She does not mold herself to fit someone else's expectations, nor does she compromise her values just to gain approval. She knows that authenticity is what sets her apart, and she embraces every part of herself. Her thoughts, her emotions, her beliefs without apology. She refuses to water herself down to be more palatable for a man. If she is passionate about something, she expresses it fully. If she has an opinion, she shares it confidently. She does not pretend to be indifferent when she deeply cares, nor does she act overly agreeable just to avoid conflict. She knows that true connection is built on honesty, not on saying what she thinks someone wants to hear. She embraces her imperfections rather than hiding them. She understands that vulnerability is not a weakness but a strength, and she does not fear being seen for who she truly is. She does not mask her emotions, nor does she suppress her desires to appear more cool or easygoing. If something excites her, she shows it. If something bothers her, she addresses it. She does not put on a facade or play a role. She exists as herself, fully and unapologetically. A high-value woman does not seek external validation to feel worthy. She does not rely on compliments, attention, or approval from a man to feel good about herself. She knows that her worth is not determined by how others perceive her, but by how she perceives herself. Because she is secure in who she is, she does not fall into the trap of trying to impress or prove herself. She lets her natural energy and presence speak for itself. She does not lose herself in relationships. She maintains her individuality, her interests, and her ambitions, regardless of who she is with. She doesn't pretend to like things she doesn't, or suppress her dreams to accommodate someone else's. She understands that a real connection should enhance who she is, not require her to shrink herself. If a man cannot accept her for exactly who she is, she does not try to change herself. She simply walks away, knowing that she deserves someone who will love her in her entirety. She stands firm in her truth, even when it is uncomfortable. She does not fear judgment, nor does she let the opinions of others dictate her choices. She knows that not everyone will understand her, and she is perfectly fine with that. She does not chase approval, nor does she sacrifice her authenticity for the sake of fitting in. She embraces her uniqueness, knowing that the right people, the ones who truly matter, will appreciate her for exactly who she is. A high-value woman moves through life with an unshakable sense of self. She does not beg, she does not chase, and she does not compromise her worth for fleeting validation. She speaks with intention, listens with presence, and carries herself with the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly who she is. She understands that the right connections do not require force. They flow effortlessly toward those who are meant to be in her life. She does not fear walking away when something does not align with her values, and she never settles for less than she deserves. She knows that her presence is a privilege, not a prize to be won through games or manipulation. She loves deeply, but never at the cost of her own dignity. She respects men, but more importantly, she respects herself. In the end, the way she speaks to men is simply a reflection of how she speaks to the world. With grace, with strength, and with a deep, unwavering belief in her own worth. And because she carries herself this way, the right people will always recognize and cherish the rare and undeniable presence of a woman who truly knows her value.